Crafty Lumberjacks, I'm Dennis.
I'm Andrew.
Welcome back to Handmade Holiday, the DIY series where we create projects for all your celebrations. And this one we're so excited for.
I'm really excited about this one. It hasn't been a bad winter, but it has been a long winter. So today we are celebrating spring.
Today we're making a pretty simple craft, but sometimes it's the simple crafts that are the best.
That's really true. Today we are making pressed flower spring luminaries. This is a really great way to bring the outside in, or even just to bring a little light outside.
I love it. Here we go.
For this project, we're starting with wax paper, and we just want to cut a nice long piece. And then we're going to take our wax paper and we're going to fold it in half. And I really want to be meticulous with this part just because if I don't do this part correctly, the whole thing is going to be a little wonky. So I really want to make sure I'm lining it up correctly.
And this is actually going to be our full lantern. What we're doing here is kind of folding it into a box, essentially.
All right, so we have our paper folded, and now we're going to create small sections. And I'm going to be using a mat for this just because it's a real easy way to make sure that everything is lined up correctly and measured properly. So I want each box to be 6 inches. But before I start, I'm actually going to make a small lip that's going to connect the box together in the end. And to do this part, I'm going to be using a ruler and a boning tool. Now, if you've never used a boning tool, this is a really great way to score paper and other products like that. So it's really easy to use. Now, as I said before, I'm going to make every box to be 6 inches, but I like to follow the box that's on the mat itself. I think that's the easier way to do it. So I'm going to do that. So 6 inches is just right here. There we go. So I'm going to take about 1/4 inch to make this little flap. So to do all of this, I'm just making sure everything is lined up and then use my boning tool to score it. Now the great thing about a boning tool is that it does not have a really sharp edge, so you're not going to cut into your wax paper. So if you don't have a boning tool, you could use a credit card or a gift card instead. All right, so now we have 4 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I want to do is cut off this edge just so we don't have extra. And I'm going to be using a paper cutter for this. But if you do not have one, don't rush out and get one. You could always just cut it by hand. Just try to do it as carefully as you can. There we go. Now it's time to add our flowers and iron. For this step, we're using our craft ironing board. And before we move forward, we just want to double crease these just so when we iron, we don't lose the creases. So I'm just going to fold it over and lightly take my finger and press it down. And now we're going to open it up so we can add our flowers. Now we found these flowers online that were pre-pressed, but you can press your own. There are plenty of tutorials out there. I'm going to be using some tweezers for this just because the flowers are delicate, and if you use your fingers, you can rip some of the petals off. But what I'm thinking is I'm going to do about 3 flowers for each square. I really think less is more for this project. The flowers are so beautiful, they really do speak for themselves. One thing you do want to think about as you're putting these flowers on is that the thicker the flower is, the more bubbling you're going to get with your wax paper. That's okay. I don't mind that texture, but that's something you want to think about. Also, you want to make sure your flowers are all in the same direction just because there are fronts and backs, so the look will change. All right, now I'm going to carefully sandwich our paper back together, just trying to make sure nothing really shifts, making sure everything is pretty centered before I do so as well. But there's something nice and organic about not having it perfect. I think this project really lends itself to it just really looking organic and simple. And now before ironing, I'm just going to cover the wax paper with some parchment paper. That way the wax doesn't get onto the iron.
All right, now time for the magic.
Yes, we have our iron set on medium with dry heat, and I'm gonna do a pressing motion. I don't wanna move it around in a swirling motion because that could disrupt where the flowers are laid. So I'm just gonna press, almost like stamping. Now, one thing you do wanna be careful about is if you press the flowers too long, you could discolor the flowers. So you don't wanna leave the iron on too long. Now that it's stuck, I can start swirling it around just to make sure everything's down.
Wow.
All right, so I'm just gonna check it and I'm gonna flip it over. Wow, it looks really nice. There we go, I think that looks pretty good.
Beautiful.
Here it is. It looks really beautiful. Now here's the bubbling I was talking about. I think you can see it around the flowers and everywhere else. That's just wax paper in general, but I think it really gives a beautiful texture, and you're not gonna see it when there's an LED light inside of it. All right, now to add our legs. So we're gonna be using coffee stirrers and some craft glue. I tried this with a few different types of glue. Craft glue worked the best. Now there is a front and a back, just like I was saying, there's a front and a back to the flowers. So as you can see, this is the back and this is the front. You wanna make sure that the lantern is facing front because we're gonna put our legs on the front. And then what we're gonna do is essentially put 2 legs right next to each crease. Just like that. And to help line it up, I'm actually gonna use my ruler. I found that using a paintbrush really helped make this process easy and not too gluey. So I'm just adding glue to the middle of the stick, leaving some areas of the stick, the 2 outer areas of the stick unglued, just because they will not be attached to the wax paper. And now for the ends, I'm just gonna add 1 popsicle stick to each end. And with this lip, I just wanna make sure that it's on the inner side of the lip. And now we're just gonna let this dry. The glue is dry. Now I'm just gonna take a moment and refold our creases, just to make sure they're nice and creased, just so it really resembles a box. Now I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the lip that we created and then put the box together. There we go. If you want a little more stability in your lantern, you can add some crossbars using extra coffee stirrers. All you want to do is take 2 on the top, going one direction. You can leave it just like that or do the same thing on the opposite direction on the bottom. And then you just want to pop in your LED candle.
These look so great. I'm getting so excited for spring. I need that warm weather. I want to hear from you in a comment below about any pressed flower projects that you're currently working on.
Yes, don't forget to like this page, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.